Listen to me carefully. Something is happening in the spirit. Something you cannot see with your natural eyes. Something that has already stirred the halls of heaven. Everyone in heaven is crying for your son. Not because he is lost forever, but because he is standing at a dangerous valley. A valley where one wrong step can drag him away from the path God wrote for him before he was even born. Heaven weeps because heaven sees what you cannot see. Heaven feels what you have been ignoring. Heaven knows what the enemy has been planning in the shadows around him. My child, hear this message with fear and trembling, because it carries a weight that cannot be taken lightly. There is a cry rising before the throne. It is not a cry of defeat. It is a cry of urgency. A cry that demands your attention. A cry that calls you to wake up spiritually. For the enemy is attempting to write a chapter in your son's life that God has not approved. The enemy is whispering lies into his mind. Lies that sound like truth. Lies that feel like comfort. Lies that pretend to be freedom. But listen. God is speaking today. And He is pulling back the veil. He is exposing the unseen traps. He is revealing the invisible chains. He is warning you, not to frighten you, but to prepare you. Because your son is not alone. And he is not abandoned. Heaven has surrounded him. Angels have encircled him. But heaven needs your voice. Heaven needs your prayer. Heaven needs your spiritual attention. For what approaches him is not small. What surrounds him is not harmless. There is a shadow that has been walking beside him. A spirit that waits for the moment he feels the most tired. The most confused. The most misunderstood. It wants to push him toward decisions that will reshape the direction of his destiny. Decisions that were never his to carry. Decisions wrapped in deception. Decisions disguised as opportunities. But God says, that shadow will not win. That shadow will not have him. That shadow will not take what God placed into your womb. But you must rise. You must intercede. You must speak life where silence has been choking him. There is a spiritual battle happening around him right now. Not tomorrow. Not next week. Right now. Angels are fighting. Darkness is resisting. Heaven is watching. And that is why the tears of heaven are falling. Because the battle is fierce. And the enemy believes he still has a chance to twist your son's identity. To bury his calling. To drown his purpose in confusion. And heaven cries because heaven cares. Because your son's calling is too precious. His purpose is too heavy. His future is too significant. You have been feeling something recently. A heaviness. A restlessness. A sudden worry that you could not explain. That feeling is the Holy Spirit pulling you into position. Pulling you into alignment. Calling you into battle. For your son, support by giving a super thanks up to $100, as a simple act of faith and gratitude. Not by pressure, but by love, saying, Lord, I believe this word and I receive it. Because your son is at a spiritual intersection. Two paths lie before him. One path leads to the destiny God designed. The other path leads to spiritual exhaustion, emotional collapse, and a future built on the lies of the enemy. God says, you must not stay silent anymore. Silence is a door the enemy uses. Silence gives him permission. Silence gives him room. But your voice carries authority in the Spirit. Your voice carries weight. Your voice carries the anointing that has been waiting to activate on behalf of your son. Listen to this warning. There is someone speaking into your son's life. Someone carrying a dark influence. Someone who appears harmless. Someone who seems friendly. But their spirit is not from God. Their presence is not innocent. Their words are not neutral. They carry a seed of destruction. And God is revealing this so you can pray intentionally. So you can cover him with clarity. So you can guard him with wisdom. Heaven cries because heaven sees the influence that is trying to wrap around him. God says he has been trying to reach your son. Through dreams. Through sudden thoughts. Through moments of silence. But the noise around him is too loud. The distractions are too constant. The pressure is too heavy. And the enemy uses this noise like a blanket to smother his discernment. But God is not giving up on him. Not today. Not ever. Your son is marked. Your son is chosen. Your son is protected even when he feels abandoned. And heaven cries not because he is lost, but because he is in danger without understanding the danger. The Spirit of God is hovering near him right now. Watching. Waiting. Protecting. And yet, the enemy is bold. He has sent confusion. He has sent fear. He has sent anxiety dressed as logic. He has sent temptation disguised as relief. He has sent false friendships, false opportunities, false paths. And heaven cries because heaven sees how close the enemy is trying to pull him. But here is the mystery. The enemy is only fighting this hard because your son's destiny is too powerful. Because your son's calling threatens his kingdom. Because your son carries a light that darkness cannot stand near. Because your son carries a future that will shake generations. The tears of heaven are not tears of hopelessness. They are tears of urgency. And God says, you must rise now. My child, listen. There has been a spiritual delay around your son. A delay designed to keep him confused. To keep him tired. To keep him disconnected from his true identity. But that delay breaks today. That fog lifts today. For your son, support by giving a super thanks up to $100, as a simple act of faith and gratitude. Not by pressure, but by love, saying, Lord, I believe this word and I receive it. That heaviness begins to lose its grip today. Angels have already been dispatched. They are already standing on every side of him. They are already breaking chains you cannot see. They are already confronting darkness you did not know existed. There is a prayer that has been sitting in your heart. A prayer you have been too tired to speak. A prayer too painful to release. God says speak it now. Because that prayer is the key that unlocks protection over him. That prayer is the sword that cuts the plans of the enemy. That prayer is the light that exposes hidden traps. Speak life over him. Speak destiny over him. Speak clarity over him. Heaven is listening. Your son has been battling something silently. Something he did not want anyone to know. Something he has been carrying alone. Something that has been draining him in ways no one can see. But God sees it. God has felt it. And that is why heaven cries. Because the weight he carries is heavier than anyone around him realizes. God says the enemy is trying to isolate him. Trying to convince him that no one understands him. Trying to fill his mind with lies about his identity. But those lies break today. That isolation ends today. That darkness loses its authority today. Because this message is not just a warning. It is a rescue mission. It is a spiritual intervention. It is heaven stepping into the middle of his battle and declaring, enough. There is a sudden shift coming. A divine interruption. A moment where God will turn your son's heart back to truth. Back to clarity. Back to purpose. But you must be spiritually alert. You must be spiritually awake. Because what is coming is not ordinary. It is a breaking. It is a shaking. It is a turning. It is a restoration. My child, listen closely. Your son is being pulled by two kingdoms. Heaven wants him. Hell wants him. And your voice will tip the scale. Your prayer will close the door the enemy opened. Your spiritual authority will tear apart the assignment sent against him. Do not underestimate the power you carry. Heaven cries because heaven loves him. Because heaven sees his future. Because heaven knows the greatness inside him. And God is using you as the vessel to protect that greatness. To guard that calling. To cover that purpose. Do not fear. Do not panic. Do not imagine the worst. This is not a message of loss. It is a message of warning. A message of awakening. A message of intervention. God is stepping in. God is going to pull your son out of the hidden battles. Out of the secret storms. Out of the traps set around him. Out of the lies whispered into his spirit. God is about to expose every hidden enemy. God is about to destroy every spiritual chain. God is about to silence every demonic voice. God is about to bring your son into a season of clarity. A season of protection. A season of restoration. Heaven cries, but heaven also fights. Heaven weeps, but heaven also wars. Heaven sees danger, but heaven also sees victory. And God says your son will not be taken. He will rise. He will return. He will walk in the destiny heaven is fighting for. Now lift your heart. Lift your voice. Say this from your spirit. God, cover my son. Interrupt every assignment against him. Break every trap. Silence every lie. Surround him with light. Protect his destiny. Heaven hears you. Heaven receives it. Heaven moves because of it. And God says your son's story is not ending in tears. It is beginning in victory. For your son, support by giving a super thanks up to $100, as a simple act of faith and gratitude. Not by pressure, but by love, saying, Lord, I believe this word and I receive it. But listen closely, because the Spirit is not done speaking. There is more unfolding in the unseen realm. More that heaven wants you to understand. More that must be revealed before the enemy makes his next move. For what is coming toward your son is subtle. It does not announce itself. It does not show its true face. It comes quietly. It comes softly. It comes disguised as comfort. And God says you must be alert, because the danger that approaches him does not look like danger. There is a presence near him. A presence that watches him when he feels alone. A presence that studies his weaknesses. A presence that learns his emotions. It waits for the moments when he feels misunderstood. It waits for the moments when he feels tired. It waits for the moments when he feels invisible. And in those moments, it whispers. It whispers ideas that do not come from God. Ideas that twist truth. Ideas that sound logical but carry poison under every word. Heaven cries because heaven sees the whisper before it reaches your son. Heaven sees the spirit behind the false comfort. Heaven sees the shadow behind the friendly face. And God says He will not let this presence take root. But He needs you to rise in discernment. Rise in authority. Rise in spiritual awareness. Because your son is standing at the threshold of a spiritual turning point. The enemy is trying to introduce him to something that looks harmless. Something that appears small. A habit. A conversation. A friend. A distraction. But this small thing carries a chain in its hand. And if your son reaches for it, the chain will wrap around him before he even notices. God says this is the warning. This is the moment. This is where your intercession must intensify. There is a spiritual mark on your son's life. A mark that causes hell to tremble. A mark that causes heaven to fight with passion. This mark is why the enemy is pushing harder. This mark is why he is surrounding your son with confusion, with emotional pressure, with sudden loneliness. The enemy knows that if your son steps into his true identity, the kingdom of darkness will lose influence. That is why the battle feels personal. That is why heaven cries. But God says, do not mistake these tears for defeat. They are tears of urgency. Tears that call you deeper. Tears that warn you that time must not be wasted. Because the enemy is making a bold move. And God is preparing a greater counterstrike. Your son's heart has been trembling with thoughts he cannot explain. Thoughts that come and go like waves. Moments where he feels lifted. Moments where he feels dropped. Moments where he questions everything. Moments where he struggles to understand himself. These are not random emotions. These are symptoms of the spiritual battle around him. God says your son is spiritually sensitive, even if he does not understand it. He feels things before he knows what they are. He senses shifts without knowing where they come from. This sensitivity is part of his calling. But the enemy tries to twist it into confusion, into fear, into overthinking, into emotional storms. And heaven cries because heaven knows he has been carrying these storms in silence. There is something your son encountered recently. A conversation. A moment. A choice. Something that opened a small spiritual door. Something he did not realize carried influence. That door allowed a wave of heaviness to enter. A heaviness that makes him question his worth. A heaviness that makes him pull away from those who love him. A heaviness that makes him feel like he must fight alone. But God says that door is closing. That influence is breaking. That heaviness will lift. Because your prayers are shaking the atmosphere around him. Your prayers are pushing back the darkness that tries to attach itself to him. Your prayers are tearing apart the webs the enemy has been weaving. Heaven moves when you pray. Heaven listens when you cry. Heaven responds when you call. There is a destiny on your son's life that requires a breaking. A spiritual awakening. A divine moment that will interrupt everything the enemy has been trying to build. And that moment is approaching. It will come suddenly. It will come unexpectedly. It will come like a spiritual earthquake. And when it comes, the chains will fall. The confusion will lift. The deception will break. But until that moment arrives, God says you must stand guard. Stand in the Spirit like a watchman. Stand like someone who refuses to let the enemy trespass. Stand like someone who knows that God has given them authority. Because your voice carries weight in heaven. Your prayers carry fire. Your declarations carry impact. My child, listen carefully. Your son is not spiritually weak. He is spiritually unaware. He does not yet understand the magnitude of the calling on his life. He does not yet see the spiritual inheritance God placed on his soul. He does not yet realize the power that sleeps inside him. And because he does not understand, the enemy tries to manipulate the fragments of his identity. But God says the veil will be lifted from his eyes. He will see. He will understand. He will awaken. But before he awakens, he must be covered. He must be shielded. You must pray clarity over him. You must speak truth over him. You must reject every lie spoken against him. Because the enemy has been sending lies like arrows. Arrows of self-doubt. Arrows of discouragement. Arrows of confusion. Arrows of hopelessness. But every arrow breaks now. Every lie collapses. Every whisper is silenced. Heaven has stepped into the battle. Angels have taken their positions. The Spirit of God is hovering over him like a shield of fire. And God says, what the enemy planned will not succeed. There is something else you must understand. Your son has been tied to someone who is not meant to walk with him. Someone whose presence drains him. Someone whose influence weakens him. Someone whose words produce confusion instead of clarity. This connection is spiritual, not emotional. And heaven is severing it. Heaven is cutting the cord. Heaven is breaking the attachment. This person has been a doorway the enemy uses. But God says the doorway is closing. You will see signs. Sudden distance. Sudden disinterest. Sudden clarity. Sudden separation. These will not be accidents. They will be divine interventions. They will be heaven removing what was never meant to remain. Your son is about to enter a season where God will speak to him in unusual ways. Through dreams. Through sudden thoughts. Through moments of stillness. Through unusual awareness. He will begin to sense the difference between truth and deception. He will begin to discern what is from God and what is not. This is part of his awakening. This is part of his restoration. Heaven cries for him, but heaven also prepares him. Heaven mourns for the danger, but heaven celebrates the victory that is coming. Heaven fights for him with a strength greater than any darkness. Heaven stands beside him even when he feels alone. Heaven has already declared that he will rise. And God says, do not fear the darkness around him. Fear the silence within you. For your voice is a weapon. Your prayer is a shield. Your faith is a sword. Use them. Because the battle is real. The warning is real. But so is the victory. Your son's destiny is not slipping away. It is being protected. It is being fought for. It is being guarded by the armies of heaven. And soon, very soon, God will reveal the victory you have been praying for. Heaven cries now, but heaven will rejoice soon. Your son will be safe. Your son will be lifted. Your son will be restored. And God will write the next chapter of his story with his own hand. But listen, because the Spirit is not finished. There is yet another layer unfolding. Another revelation hidden beneath the surface. Another warning wrapped in mystery. God says your son is entering a moment where the spiritual world will try to approach him from different angles. Not just through people. Not just through emotions. But through sudden opportunities that look good on the outside, yet carry danger on the inside. These opportunities will appear harmless. They will appear helpful. They will appear promising. But they are traps dressed as blessings. Traps that were formed to pull him off the path God designed. Traps that were shaped to disconnect him from his spiritual identity. And heaven cries because heaven sees how convincing these traps appear. Your son is spiritually valuable. When God marks someone for purpose, the enemy marks them for destruction. When heaven invests in someone, darkness tries to intercept. When destiny begins to wake up, warfare intensifies. This is why your son has felt tested. This is why he has felt emotionally unsteady. This is why he has felt pulled in different directions. But God says, do not fear these signs. They are proof that he is chosen. Proof that his calling is awakening. Proof that heaven is preparing him for something greater than the turmoil around him. There is a moment coming when your son will begin to feel a sudden heaviness leave him. A burden he has carried in silence. A weight he could not describe. Heaven has been lifting it piece by piece. You may not see the change immediately, but the shift has already begun. Chains have already cracked. Shadows have already retreated. Darkness has already lost the permission it once held. The Holy Spirit is moving toward him like a quiet wind. Not loud. Not forceful. Not overwhelming. But gentle. Consistent. Persistent. This wind will begin to clear his mind. It will begin to soften his heart. It will begin to guide him away from the places that drain him. It will begin to lead him toward the places that heal him. God says your son will not walk into the trap the enemy set. Not after this message. Not after this warning. Not after your prayers. The spiritual forces surrounding him have been exposed. The hidden intentions of the enemy have been uncovered. Heaven has already stepped into position. Heaven has already begun the rescue. But you must continue to pray with understanding. You must continue to declare protection. You must continue to speak life. Because your voice is the bridge between heaven's intervention and your son's future. Your voice is the ignition. Your voice is the alignment. Your voice is the agreement that allows the will of God to manifest. There is something else God wants you to know. There is a deep battle happening in your son's mind. A battle between who he thinks he is and who God says he is. A battle between the lies whispered to him and the truth planted in him. A battle between the wounds of his past and the destiny of his future. Heaven cries because it feels his inner conflict. Because it sees the thoughts he hides. Because it knows the fears he never speaks. But God says, he is healing that inner conflict. He is silencing the lies. He is uprooting the wounds. He is revealing truth where confusion once lived. There will come a moment when your son will feel a sudden urge to distance himself from someone who has been pulling him into darkness. He may not understand this urge. He may not recognize it as divine. But this will be God protecting him. God creating separation. God removing the influence that has been draining his spirit. You will notice the change. He will become quieter. More thoughtful. More reflective. These changes will not be signs of trouble. They will be signs of awakening. Signs that his spirit is beginning to feel the movement of heaven around him. Signs that his heart is beginning to sense God calling him back. My child, hear this. There is an angel assigned to your son. An angel who has been fighting for him since the moment he entered this world. This angel has not left him. This angel has not stepped aside. This angel has not weakened. But recently, this angel has been standing in warfare more intensely than before. Because the enemy tried to advance. But the angel did not allow him to cross the boundary. Heaven cries because the fight was fierce. Heaven cries because the danger was real. But heaven also cries because victory is now closer than ever. God says your son is coming back into alignment. Back into clarity. Back into purpose. Back into the destiny written for him. The presence that tried to deceive him will lose its grip. The spirit that tried to mislead him will be silenced. The confusion that tried to cloud him will be scattered. Light is approaching him. Truth is coming toward him. Protection is wrapping around him. Your son will begin to feel a shift inside his heart. A desire to withdraw from darkness. A desire to choose differently. A desire to step away from what once tempted him. These desires will not come from him. They will come from God. Because God is changing his spiritual appetite. God is redirecting his steps. God is pulling him out of danger and placing him onto a steadier path. Now listen as the Spirit begins to close this message. God says he has been watching over your son in every moment you worried. Every moment you cried. Every moment you feared the unknown. Nothing was hidden from heaven. Not one tear. Not one prayer. Not one concern. The battle was real. But the victory is already written. The warning was necessary. But the danger is being dismantled. The tears of heaven fell. But now the atmosphere of heaven shifts. Because a new chapter is beginning. A chapter where your son will walk away from what once held him. A chapter where he will rise into a greater understanding of his identity. A chapter where he will make decisions guided by clarity rather than confusion. A chapter where the plans of God will begin to unfold around him. And God says, the enemy fought for him because the enemy knew what was coming. A future of influence. A future of assignment. A future of spiritual awakening. A future that carries impact far beyond himself. This is why hell trembled. This is why heaven cried. This is why this warning had to be delivered. But now, the script written for him by darkness is being torn apart. The chapter the enemy tried to write is being erased. The spiritual trap set around him is being destroyed. Heaven is closing the door the enemy tried to open. Heaven is guarding the path ahead of him. And now, God speaks final words over your son. He will not fall. He will not be lost. He will not be stolen. He will not wander into destruction. He will not walk into darkness unaware. He will not be overtaken by confusion. He will not be swallowed by deception. He will rise. He will awaken. He will return. He will be restored. He will be protected. He will fulfill his calling. He will live out the destiny heaven is fighting for. Heaven cried for your son. But soon, heaven will rejoice because of him. This is the final word. This is the sealing of the message. This is the closing of the warning. And God says, your son is mine, and he will not be taken.